On today's Rolston Hockey exclusive, I'm joined by 2009 11th overall pick by the Nashville Predators. He won U8, U17 gold medal, U18 gold medal, two-time OHL champion, two-time Memorial Cup champion, second all-time in assists by a defenseman in OHL history, played in 3 World Junior tournaments for Team Canada, winning gold once, 2010-11 Canadian Hockey League Defenseman of the Year. In 2015-16, he competed for Team Canada at the World Championships, where he won gold. Never seen someone love playing Call of Duty as much as this guy does. One of the most competitive guys I've been on the ice or in the locker room with. Currently up for the best beard going in the NHL in his 9th NHL season, my buddy Ryan Ellis. What's happening, man?
All right, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. How are you doing during all this virus stuff?
Yeah, it's crazy. My wife and I, we came home. We're back in Hamilton, Ontario right now, and we live in a really small community outside of Hamilton. So, relatively unaffected, but it's obviously getting closer and closer to home, and so we're doing our part, trying to social distance, and really haven't left the house much.
Have you been able to stay active, or get a couple workouts in, and do the best you can as if the season's going to get going here?
Yeah, it's kind of, we're just waiting and seeing. I got a gym in my garage, and I do the best. We get workouts from our trainer and do the best to stay in shape. And weather's decent here right now, so you can go for runs. And only thing you can't do is skate, which obviously is the main part of our job. But staying active, staying in shape's at the forefront right now.
So you said you're back in Hamilton. Is that where you grew up, or did you grow up outside of London there for a bit?
Yeah, I was outside of London until I was about 8 or 9 years old. Then we moved to, Freelton, Ontario, which is Hamilton, and when I was 8 or 9, and then I've been here ever since for the most part.
Let's talk about your youth hockey, where you grew up. What were some of the teams that you played on? Maybe some of the teammates that you might have had in your youth experience?
Yeah, so I lived in a pretty small town relatively, like, my whole life. So I played, I think it was, AAA, AA, single A, and I think we were like a D center. So like really, really small from my first 7 or 8 years. But I think I played two years older at that time. And then when I moved, we were a single A. So I played single A, then we became a AA. I played that, and then eventually made my way to Toronto to play in the GTHL for AAA hockey.
So, being that young, at what age, did you have kind of a moment where, you thought, well, I might have a shot at, doing this whole hockey thing and, making a career out of this? Was there a year, a team where, maybe you got some good experience or some exposure where things started to kind of take off?
To be honest, my whole life I only ever thought about being a hockey player. So in my mind, it wasn't really like, oh, what else am I going to be and stuff. But as you get older, you obviously you see the writing on the wall a little bit more, and start to understand, like, oh, do I have a chance or not? And I think my biggest moment was probably my first year in the OHL, and seeing my name in talks of being a first round pick. And I was kind of like, all right, well, I always believed it. And I guess to me, it wasn't a shock, but I guess that was my kind of wake up moment that I have a chance to really play hockey for a living.
For sure. So speaking of that, you're drafted to the Windsor Spitfires, 22nd overall in the second round. I think, was it Halsey that went to the Spits before you? Same year?
Yep.
Yep. While you were there, 2 OHL championships, 2 Mem Cups, about every defensive record that you can, accomplish during that time. How many years were you at the old Windsor Arena?
1.5.
And then moved to the WFCU. Talk about your experience there. I was there for 2 years with you. Obviously, what an experience. We had quite a coaching staff there, and guys that went on to have great careers. Talk about how that helped you develop your game, and starting to make that transition from youth hockey to a little bit more of a pro environment.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's a big step going from minor hockey to the OHL. You go from, your parents driving you to the rink, or you taking your equipment home, and then you move on to, your parents are more or less fans at this point, and all the things that you went to your dad or your mom to talk about kind of don't matter as much anymore. And now you have these grown men telling you how to play hockey, and it's a big learning curve. Your first year in the OHL, and for me, it was I never played a system in my life, and then now we're playing a system, and I'm like, kind of, what are you talking about, a system? Like, it's not hockey. So that was a big learning curve. But I think me walking into a team that I think they just finished near the bottom of the league. So it was a kind of a, if I play well, I'll play a lot kind of thing. And our coaching staff, them, Bob Bugner, DJ Smith, Bob Jones, Warren Reichel was our GM. They were unbelievable, and they had a couple guys in between in those years, Dave Matzos, and awesome guys, amazing people. And not only were they like friends, like kind of off the ice, they were your coaches on the ice, and then they're guiding you into a place that they've already been themselves. And I couldn't think of anyone better to learn from than that group of guys.
During those years, you competed at, I believe, 3 World Juniors for Team Canada. One of them being the gold medal that you guys won. You went there as an underager. You were one of 2 guys on your team, was it?
Yeah, Vander Kane were both underagers.
Okay. Talk about that experience as a whole. You've played for Team Canada and, represented your country in many tournaments, but, at that young age, what that meant to you and getting that exposure. I think your first year, you were more of a power play specialist. Got a lot of time during that, but, it's well documented, that whole series, and, the play of you keeping the puck in, Tavares throwing it on net to Everly, and, keeping the dream alive there.
Yeah, it was. I mean, for the experience, the whole experience that Team Canada puts on every year for their players and the family is second to none. It's amazing. But me going in it my first time as an underager, going to camp with guys like John Tavares and guys who had already been drafted in the first round or in the second round, and I'm looking up to these guys like, these guys are the real deal. And then I'm there, and I end up making the team, and that whole experience, the camp and how you get the call and all that kind of stuff that comes with it is really cool. But then you're on the team, and instead of watching at Christmas time, and you go to we went to our grandparents for Christmas, and we watched Boxing Day, the first game every year, and Team Canada versus whoever, and now I'm playing in it. And and not only that, guys like Tavares and these other players that have already made a name for themselves, and now I'm there, and it was an amazing experience. Like you said, I think I only played power play. I might have had when we were up on a team, I might have had a couple 5-on-5 shifts, but I played power play, first power play, and it was fun. I mean, go out there when you have the chance to get all the points, and who doesn't like that? And then go watch the game from the bench, best seats in the house. It was a terrific experience. We had Pat Quinn as our coach in Ottawa, home soil, and we ended up winning, which was pretty amazing.
That's awesome. So you go on with Windsor, win 2 Memorial Cups, great junior career, and my last year in Windsor, you were in Nashville basically all through camp, and it was, is Ellie going to come back? Is he going to stick for the year? You had to play, I believe the rule is 9 games for you to stay for the whole year. Talk about kind of that experience for you turning pro, kind of the battle of, you had kind of outgrown the OHL, Nashville for, respectable reasons, maybe thought you needed another year, whatever it may have been. And just, more so the mental side of you felt you were ready, but, they believed that you needed another year.
Yeah, I mean, every kid, like you've been through the process. Every kid thinks they're ready, and they're out to get me, or they're screwing me out of this or that. I mean, it's going to happen in time. And for me, it was tough as a kid going through that. Anytime you get rejected at any age, but especially when you're a kid, it's heartbreaking. And me sitting there thinking I'm ready, and then coming back to junior, and you were on the team. We had a great team, great group of guys. It was a bit younger, bit different than the years past, and it was honestly one of the funnest years for me personally. It was going out, like you said, you and I are same age, and we were having fun every night on the ice, and just kind of had outgrown the league in a way, but it's still an amazing league, amazing experience. Our coaches, the fans in Windsor, like the whole environment. At the time, I didn't think it was the right move for me, but looking back, it was probably the best thing that could happen to me, was going back and playing another year and developing and learning. And then, I mean, the year we had, I think we went to the conference championship, and so it almost made it, because they were hosting, the OHL was hosting. It almost made it 3 straight Mem Cups, which would have been pretty cool in itself. But all in all, that year was probably one of the funnest hockey years of my life.
In your junior career, you lived with your current teammate Austin Watson, and then was it your last year that Jack Campbell lived with you?
Yeah. Jack and Austin were my roommates.
Had some good times down in your basement playing some video games. Remember that like yesterday. So you finally make the jump. You graduate basically from the OHL. You turn pro. Your first 2 seasons, you're up and down a little bit. You played a total of 61 AHL games. Currently 527 NHL games. Talk about your first 2 years pro. Getting used to that lifestyle, the new game. Really having to take care of your body on and off the ice, and finally making that jump full time to playing for Nashville.
Yeah, it was tough. The first 2 years, they didn't go as planned for me personally. But I think if you ask, our scouts or our GM and anyone that they were setting the standard on how guys went through our program, it was right on course. And for me, it was tough because, I think it was the 3rd camp that I had got cut from the actual team, and went to the minors, and I'm looking at either past teammates or other players that I had played against, not only playing in the NHL, but having an impact in the NHL. And it's heartbreaking, because it's like, well, I used to play with him, or I used to shut that guy down, and and then he's scoring 20 goals in the NHL, and you're like, how is this even possible? But no, the trials and tribulations, they're tough at the time mentally, and I think that's one of the things in the game that is so under thought of and under examined, is the mental side, and how people are affected with, whether making a mistake on the ice, or whether it be a lineup change, or a coach, like the way a coach talks to you, or being sent down and up and down. And it's a very underappreciated part of the game. And for me, it was tough to go through all that. But then there was a lockout, which kind of messed everything else up for me personally, because it was the 2nd year, and I automatically had to go back to the minors. And then it was kind of a half year. It was all over the place, and that's what it felt like for me mentally. But I came through it on the other side, and it's been a great ride so far.
Talk about coming into a locker room as a young player. I can remember talking with you, a guy like Shea Weber, who at the time was the captain, and probably someone that you looked up to. Maybe some influence that he had on you, or guys at that time coming in, and how they're treated, and looking up to them and seeing what they do on a day-to-day basis, and some of the stuff that maybe you've taken from them along with yourself in the career.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of people at every level, to be honest, that you can look up to, and you can learn a little bit from. And it doesn't even have to be the best players. There's guys that one guy, Paul Gostad, he told me a line. It was something like "stretch your body, stretch your career" or something.
Yep.
And I was one of those guys that never stretched. I warmed, played soccer, and I went right on the ice, and and I played. And then I had an injury, and it was a pretty significant one. And someone's like, well, you got to start stretching. You got to start doing this. And I'm like, what is that? Like 23, 24, like, what do you mean? I'm a kid still. Like, and so now it's every day it's stretching, and it's activation, warming up. And it's not so much lifting the heavy weights and anything. I feel like everything's changed with the way the game's changed, and being in the right shape and being flexible and strong, but quick and agile. It's a different from what I guess I grew up doing, and it's changed a lot. But back to your question, just the guys that Shea was one of the guys that I looked up to and learned a lot from. Ryan Suter was I sat next to him, and he was another guy that I looked up to and I learned a lot from. And then you go on, and it just you pick up little things from different guys, and then that kind of makes up you as a player.
Your team has been very successful the past couple of years here. You guys have had a good core group of guys. Talk about your run that you guys went on in 16, 17, all the way to the finals. Just you've played a lot of playoff hockey, a lot of important games. What type of experience did you gain from that you'll take with you to the upcoming seasons, and hopefully when and if you guys are in that position, something that you will have learned to maybe translate to that current series?
Yeah, it was an amazing run. It was that whole year. It was kind of an up and down year. We finished. I think we were the last team into the playoffs. The second last game of the year, we clinched a playoff spot, and we were like obviously pumped. Okay, we're in the playoffs. This is great. And then we play our arch rivals, the Chicago, and they had beat us 2 or 3 years in a row, and they have some of the best players in the world, and they were in their dynasty, and everything. And so we're like, you know what? Let's throw the kitchen sink at them, and let's just go see what we got. And we swept them, and it was like we let in I think 2 or 3 goals the whole series. It was like nothing I've been a part of really in a long time. Just how it was a bunch of more or less kids that kind of believed but wasn't sure, and we'll try real hard and see what happens. And then after that, it was like nothing could stop us. It felt like it was just a matter of time. Whether it took 5 games, 6 games, 7 games, we were going to win, and we were going to win. And then we did, and we got to Pittsburgh, and we were all kind of like, holy crap, like what happened the last 2 months? How did we get here? And it was just a roller coaster. Obviously, I think we lost the first 2 games, and we were kind of like, somewhat okay. We might be in trouble here, but we're going home. We had been really good at home all year, and then we won both games, and we're like, geez, like we're beating Sidney Crosby and Genny Malkin, and in their element, which is playoffs, and we're competing. We have a chance, and obviously we didn't end up winning, but the experience was nothing like I could really even put into words, to be honest. Just every day it was calculated. We were thinking only about hockey, and we go on, like you play your game, you do your practice, and you go home, and you have the rest of your life and home things, kids, family. That's the other thing. But for that 2-week window, it was just hockey, and it was like being a kid again, kind of back in where you play in the tournaments on the weekend, or the whole weekend is just hockey. It was kind of like that, where it was just, the next 2 weeks is just hockey. We don't have to worry about anything else. Yep. It was really special. We had a great experience.
So this current year, obviously it's put on a hold for a little bit here, but you guys got off to maybe not the start that you were looking for, and your organization decided to make a coaching change. Talk about basically John Hines coming in, and the impact, or maybe the different structure or the feel in the locker room that maybe he's had since he's taken over.
Yeah, I was a big Peter Laviolette guy. He kind of really gave me my start, my chance, and my opportunity, and I really thrived under Lavi, and it was to me it was heartbreaking to have him let go, especially the way it happened.
Right.
It's not like it wasn't he was making mistakes or he was doing. It was, I feel like as players we let him down, and it's if I could have changed it, if I could have worked that much harder, would it have made a difference? Maybe.
Right.
But it's a hockey game. It's a team game, and it takes everybody to really make a difference. And so it is what it is. It happened, and it happens in sports. And to be honest, it's kind of somewhat been a different experience for me. So I got hit in January 1st, and I hadn't played for 2 months. And in that time was the coaching change, so I didn't even get to experience what it was like playing under Heinze. And then I come back for, I came back for maybe 8 or 10 games, and then all of this. So first impressions, honestly, just a fair coach, a good teacher, and I think there's nothing that you can really do in a game from a coaching standpoint that if you don't have the players committing to and playing in front of you, then you as a coach, that's kind of how you make your money, is your coach or your players buying into your systems. And I think he changed a few things. He tweaked a few things in our system, and it's worked. It's helped, and just a different way to look at the game. But all in all, if you don't have the players playing their hardest in front of you, then you might as well throw the coaching manual out the window. So
for sure. I mean, it's unfortunate, with your injury and, now this virus going on. You were 79 games played. You've had 38 points this year, arguably your best season to date as of right now. But, hopefully that season can pick back up here and, get back on track. But, talk about maybe a little bit your summer training programs that, you put yourself through. You've always been a guy that, showed up to camp ready to go. I can remember, gosh, where were we? We were second round maybe, and when we were playing in Windsor, and we played who was it? Erie, and we went to like 3 or 4 overtimes, and I think you clocked in at like 52 minutes played that game. And talk about a little bit maybe how your training's evolved over the years. Maybe some of your on ice, what you focus on, and just kind of how you've developed as a player over the years.
Yeah, so early on as a kid, I feel like just growing up in the different kind of, I wouldn't say it's an era of hockey, but a different time in hockey. Hockey was still kind of bigger bodies, big defensemen, big players. Everyone had to be over 200 pounds and bench press a certain amount and squat a certain amount. And then I guess kind of when I started coming in, there was a few more players coming with me, and the Johnny Gaudreaus and me. There's tons of smaller players, Spurgeon. And we were all kind of coming in at the same time. And I think now hockey's kind of changed over to, you obviously want to be as strong as you can be and as big as you can be, but you need to be above all fast and quick. And if you're 230 pounds, well, you're probably not going to be as quick as the 180-pound guy or the 190-pound guy. So I think there's a fine line, and I think that's the big change as far as in workouts and in my life anyway. I feel like the first couple of years it was all, eat a lot, bench press, squat every day, get as big as you can. And I'm not a big guy. I'm 5'10", 180 pounds, call it. And I had to work to get to that size. And so for me, it's not realistic to be a 200-pound player. And so I think that was another thing with me coming in that was kind of halted my time coming into the NHL. But nowadays, everybody's around my size. It feels like the average height's going down and the average weight's going down, but the speed of the players is getting so much faster, the quickness, the ability. I feel like some of the opportunities that the kids nowadays have coming up and learning from, like whether it be power skating or skill work or even just in the gym. It's not bench press and squats. It's quickness. It's, what do? I do a lot of plyos, a lot of box jumps. I still do squat and bench press and all that, but it's once a week, twice a week maybe. But everything, it's all quick. It's sprints and it's this and that. So transitioning and how fast you can get off the ground, and just honestly trying to keep up with these kids that more or less have trained their whole life. And like when I was coming up, I didn't have a skills coach. I didn't know what a skills coach.
For sure.
It was good practice, and you had power skating. So I did do power skating as a kid. I wish I did it more and maybe listened a little bit more when I was there, because I feel like you can always improve your skating, but there's some guys like Cam Fowler that's effortless when he skates. For me, I feel like I got to work a lot harder at it. So that's something in the summer that I focus on. And it just, things change and the game changes. It seems like every year something changes, and you kind of have to adapt to it to stay in it and be an impact within the game.
Are you a guy, I mean, is this depending on your season and the length of the season, but are you someone that likes to get on the ice relatively soon after, or do you take a nice little break? Some guys, they'll take a couple of weeks off and they more so skate throughout the summer and aren't maybe in the gym as much, or vice versa. What specifically has worked for you?
So, I mean, it all depends, because I've had some injuries in the summer.
Yeah.
Like after the Cup, we only had 2 months, and I ended up getting my knee done, my knee fixed. So I didn't do anything that summer. And then another summer, it might have been another minor injury that I was kind of, whether it be skating related or workout related, that I've kind of had to modify things around. But last year was my first somewhat healthy summer, and I guess if I'm healthy, my typical summer will be, as soon as the year's done, I get really bored. So I love working out, so I keep working out. I'll take a week, maybe 2 off, and then I start slowly getting back into workouts. Some might just be core and stretching, and depending on the amount of time off we have between the end of the year and training camp. And then, to be honest, I'm one of the guys that likes to get on the ice early. So I'll get on the ice sometime in June, and that gives us June, July, and August to it'll be, 2 days a week in June, 3 days a week, 3 weeks later, and then 4 or 5 days a week in August for a month.
Yep.
And then camp mid-September, and we kind of, last year we actually we get a lot of guys coming into Nashville early, so we had a good group, couple skates for 2 weeks, and it was nice because almost the whole team was there, and we were kind of getting ready for camp. We almost had a little camp before our camp. It was good.
Right. At Rolston's Academy, where I'm working with these kids, I try and preach them that the stuff that we work on, that when they're 7, 8 years old, is still the same things that best players in the NHL are working on. It's not the new crazy drills that maybe look the best or are the most fun to do, but do you find that you're still working on the very small details and simple things of the game? I mean, as simple as catching a pass on your backhand, getting a quick release, whatever it may be, but it all still comes back to those fine details and fundamentals of what you worked on and were taught at a young age.
Yeah, big time. Like, I feel, for me personally, my skating, I think it's gotten better and better since I was younger, but that's only because I still power skate. I still do edge work. I still, for the most part, I try to put myself in really awkward or spots that I don't like to be. I work on my flexibility so I can open my hips up. Like, I think the last 2 years is the first 2 years I've ever been able to open up my hips.
Yeah, Mohawk opener.
Yeah, Mohawk. And I think it's just because I haven't worked on my flexibility, or I didn't trust it, so I didn't do it. And then I start doing power skating a little more. And to be honest, it sucks. It's boring, but it's probably the best thing. Is one, you're on the ice to work on your edges, and two, you're putting yourself in vulnerable spots, and you're going to eventually be like that in a game. So the more you can work on those things, The hands, I mean, you can stick handle all day, and
Right.
it's important to work on your skill. But the skating, if you can, you see some of the best skaters in the league, whether it be the fastest or the quickest. They don't necessarily have the best hands, but they score goals just by putting themselves in better position
Right.
with their ability. And that's not everyone, but I think if it was me coming back up, I would have rather focused more on my skating ability and my edge work more than anything, to be honest.
That's great. Kind of video games you're into these days?
None. We just had our first. So I retired. I've been retired for a year or so.
How going through some withdrawals with that?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I think my son keeps me on my toes. You're gonna find out soon. It's a full-time gig.
How is he won yet?
He's won in a month. So
Awesome.
11. Yeah.
That's awesome. And tell me quickly about you got a foundation or charity set up, Ellie for Kids. Talk a little bit about that, what it is, and what you guys are trying to do in your community.
Yeah. So 4 or 5 years ago, my father-in-law he came to me, and I always wanted to do something. I feel like as athletes, we have such a great opportunity to one, give back, but two, make a difference in somebody's lives, whether it be kids or adults or hockey players or just your average day people or your normal people in general. And but we have such a platform, such an opportunity. So we kind of started talking, and we both love golf, and it was kind of a no-brainer, like let's put on a golf tournament. And I'm a big believer in the next generation and kids, and we had an amazing jungle gym and sport top, like court, basketball and hockey in our subdivision where we lived, and it was we were there every day. It was the best thing that could happen. It kept us out of trouble, and it allowed me to develop and stay in shape, get outside. There's endless positive things from that. And, so talking with my father-in-law, we're doing a golf tournament to rebuild play structures in Hamilton, Ontario. And if you know Hamilton at all, it's parts of Hamilton. It's really blue-collar town with some great people. But I think any and every donation or dollar that can go back into the city can really help. And so we redo the play structures in more or less the inner city, but also in the surrounding city. And it's been fun. It's a 1 day of golf. We've had some amazing support. We have NHL alumni coming out. We have NHL players coming out. We had some football players, some golfers. It's a big party. Everyone has fun, and if I ever win the cup, we'll bring the cup too. And it's a fun time for a good cause, and we look forward to doing it every year.
And unfortunately, that potentially may be on hold this year due to the virus and everything. But you guys have been doing that for, like you said, 4 or 5 years. I mean, unbelievable cause in your hometown, and really supporting your community there. It's about all I have for you, buddy. I really appreciate you coming on and doing this with me. I know a lot of guys that I work with look up to you, and your playing experience, a guy coming up, maybe a smaller player, but I mean, your hockey IQ has always been off the charts, and your work ethic. So I really appreciate you coming on and doing this, and hopefully the season gets going here, and you guys can get on a little run and see what happens.
All right, man. Thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, man. I appreciate it. I'll see you.